If you spend more than a few minutes looking into the Casio vintage watch world, and you get past watches such as the F91W and the A168, and you explore a little bit further, you'll come across watches such as this, the B640, to be specific, the B640WB-1AEF. If you're going for that blacked out look, now you have a lot of more options in terms of buying blacked out versions of the A168, etc. But for a period of time, this was one of the first blacked out versions that Casio brought to their vintage range. And therefore, you see quite a lot of people wearing this. Functions are standard for any sort of Casio module, so you've got standard 24-hour time if you want it. Stopwatch, date, etc, etc. The light is up here on the top right, which is different to a lot of Casios where it's on the top left. Against the blackout display, the orange works really well. I mean, just look at that, the orange versus black aesthetic. Very, very cool vibe there. So if you're in the market for this watch, let me give you a quick tour of the look and feel. One of the things that I always like about Casio metal vintage watches is that the excess strap, due to the design of the clasp, of course, is hidden under the band, so it's very sleek. So when you look down at the top of the watch, you don't see, as you do with the resin strap, you don't see the excess band sticking out here. A common complaint with Casio metal bands, sometimes they're very cheap and they catch hairs. As you can see on my wrist, I've got quite a few hairs. I'm not sure what happens with Casio metal bracelet design. You kind of either get a watch which catches a lot or doesn't catch at all, and I'm happy to report that this band doesn't catch your hairs, so thumbs up in that respect. Whereas if you were to look at it like an A158 or something, that might catch you a lot more. Let me give you a quick size comparison to the ever popular A168. It's kind of similar. Thickness, A168 might edge it out a little bit. Another interesting difference is the taper on the band is less pronounced on the B640 as opposed to the other watches. And I quite like the B640 here because it hasn't gone for a shiny polish on the face. It's gone for a muted matte effect all around the case and the bracelet. So in that respect, it's quite muted, and that reflects the blacked out display and the overall fairly minimalistic nature to the face itself. You can go even further if you want a blacked out Casio minimalist watch. Here's a very similar shaped watch in the form of the LW204. I'm going to do a separate comparison video between these watches. So if you already have, for example, an F91 and you have a A168, then I think there's a lot of merit in picking up a watch such as the B640. It gives you a different look. It kind of combines a bit of this with a bit of this and gives you the blackout display. One thing I do want to address though is just how legible is that blacked out display, because that's the main complaint when you work with blacked out displays on Casio. So let's do a comparison here. So looking straight on, you can see that the basic normal display is always going to be better. Facing on, you can look at both of them and tell the time. If you rotate, it gets a bit worse with the blacked out display. Side on, kind of the same. If you go from the top, starts to get a bit worse for the blacked out display. With Casio, not every blacked out display is equal, and I'll cover this on the other comparison, but compare these two blacked out displays, and you see how when I rotate my wrist just a tiny bit, the B640 doesn't do too bad. So in terms of legibility for a blacked out display, B640, not bad. In terms of aesthetics, I really like it. In terms of value, I bought it from Amazon. I paid around about £30. So it is going to be a little bit more expensive than perhaps a A158 or A168. you do get a different look, shall we say, which you will see less on other people's wrists. And I also think that it communicates a different message, and that is, if you go for something like an A168, this is very much, I'm a kid of the 80s, I love the retro vibe. Whereas this kind of says, okay, I kind of get the whole cheap Casio watch thing, but I also like paying attention to the sort of stylish aesthetics, and it's been updated for 2020. You also get the sort of the added benefit of that cool orange on black look. Okay, if you were perhaps Googling and looking for a video of this watch and how it looks on someone's wrist, for your reference, my wrist is 16 centimeters. I hope you found this video useful, and I will speak to you soon.